Good evening, El Segundo. We are conducting this evening's meeting and calling it to order in a virtual setting. Council members and staff are participating from remote locations, and Deputy City Clerk Mona Schilling is in chamber to accommodate public communication. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting live this evening on Spectrum Channel 3 and 22, AT&T Uverse Channel 99, and or El Segundo TV at youtube.com. Please remember to mute your mics when not speaking, and council members, if making a motion or seconding a motion, please do so using your last name in order for the clerk to hear and report correctly. All right, thank you so much. And we'll start with the invocation tonight, which will be provided by the city clerk, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilmember Perstuck. Madam Clerk.
Okay. Heavenly Father, we pray that as leaders of our community, we might have the insight and courage to serve the citizens of El Segundo with wisdom and truth. We ask for your guidance in making decisions that affect our community, ensuring that decisions made this evening are in the best interest of our city and its citizens. Amen.
Thank you. Councilmember Perstuck.
Please stand and put your hand over your heart. I have a little flag here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Perstuck. All right, Madam Clerk, may we please have the roll call?
Councilmember Giroux.
Here.
Councilmember Nickel.
Here.
Councilmember Perstuck. Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel. And Mayor
Here.
Get back.
Mayor Boyles.
Here, thank you. Okay, we have a special presentation. We're starting the evening with Chief Donovan, our fire chief, on a COVID-19 update, followed by a proclamation that Councilmember Perstuck will read. Welcome, Chief Donovan.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to provide a brief update to COVID-19. The topics that I'll cover this evening include current health data, hospitalization data. I want to talk to the council and the community about a special initiative called a fire department stand down procedure. I think it has some value to talk about what we're doing at the fire department and some crossover to the community. And then we want to talk briefly about some local efforts in El Segundo, and Deputy City Manager Barbara Voss will assist me in that portion of the presentation. So starting at the top with the current health data, unfortunately, as we've seen in the media, the health trends continue to rise at an alarming rate, both nationally and regionally. And as we've discussed before many times in both closed session and in general session, the need to adhere to the recommended preventative measures such as social distancing, the wearing of face coverings, and thorough hand washing is certainly critical at this time, probably more critical than in times before. By way of example, we have seen to date 1,559,000 tests conducted within the Los Angeles County region with a 9.6% positivity rate. The idea behind this mass testing initiative is to test, quarantine those that are test positive, and then trace those people that have tested positive to determine if we have additional spread. These are important initiatives to slow the spread and to flatten the curve. As it relates to the number of positive cases in Los Angeles County, as of this afternoon, 161,675 positive cases. That's an increase of 2,741 from yesterday. It's interesting that 57% of those positive cases are in people under 41 years of age, which confirms now that the younger people are driving new infections and the spread of COVID-19. And it's an important message that we need to help our youth in terms of following those preventative measures. As it relates to deaths, LA County unfortunately reported 4,154 deaths. That's an increase of 50. Yesterday, there were 9 deaths from the day before. Hopefully this health data is a blip and not a trend, although we know that in talking with the health officials, deaths usually lag from the hospitalization trends that I'll talk about in a moment. Locally in El Segundo, we now have 89 confirmed cases positive. That's an increase of 2. And in our active cases, that's the cases that are within a 14-day quarantine period. We have 20 active cases. That's a drop of 1, meaning 3 people have dropped out of that 14-day quarantine, which is a good data for us. As it relates to hospitalization, and this is really important data that we monitor every day, the hospitalization looks to surge capacity of beds, ICU units, and ventilators in the region. Today, there were reported 2,218 confirmed hospitalizations. That's a decrease of 14 cases from yesterday, from the reporting of yesterday. Of those 2,218 hospitalizations, and remember, these are hospitalizations that are directly related to a positive COVID case, not necessarily other risk factors such as cardiac, somebody that's in a traffic collision. These are true hospitalizations due to COVID. Of those hospitalizations, 26% required intensive care unit, and 18% of those hospitalizations require ventilators. And that's a fairly steady trend in terms of the number of people that are being hospitalized, that are needing to be moved to the intensive care unit, and then needing ventilation for respiratory support. So we're going to continue to monitor those key statistics and health metrics. Those will certainly drive our county actions. The county public health officer uses this data to help with amendments to health orders on the go forward. We're hopeful that we're in a hold pattern right now as it relates to LA County health order amendments, but we'll stay finally closely tuned in to LA County in that respect, and we'll communicate to the council and the community if there are any adjustments to the health orders. I want to talk briefly about the fire department stand down. Within the region, there are 30 fire departments, 9,000 professional firefighters, and this week we're doing a firefighter stand down. We have a series of videos that we're having all the firefighters watch, as well as information for them with 5 key checklist priorities. And I think that this has crossover to our community. And what we have found is, because we're many months into our response matrix, there's a tendency for people to let their guard down and to maybe become a little bit lax. And we want to reinforce with our firefighters and again with our community the 5 key checklists here. Number 1, now more than ever is the time to stay vigilant. Don't let your guard down. We're making sure that our firefighters maintain their posture of proper PPE, deconning, making themselves healthy so they can continue excellent service to the community. Number 2, we want to lead by example. We owe this to our community to be good stewards. And so when we're out in groups, we're going to have face coverings on, we're going to have proper PPE on as we respond to calls. And we're hoping that our community will shadow that and do the same with face coverings in particular. We're going to comply with all health directives, especially in the fire station. And so as we communicate with the public health department and we communicate with the emergency medical services agency, all of those health orders will be communicated and we'll follow those directives. We're going to assume that any one of us could be contagious at any moment. And so the idea behind this, if you walk with the mindset that you could potentially be asymptomatic and be contagious, the idea of social separation, the wearing of face coverings, proper hand washing will help prevent the spread and flatten the curve. And so we want everybody in the fire station to have the mindset that they're assuming that they are positive and contagious. That doesn't necessarily mean they are. In fact, I'm happy to report we don't have any cases, but we have that mindset. So we'll push that through our firefighter safety stand down. And then we want to take care of our mental and physical health. And we have a big push here at the fire department to stay physically fit. We're also emphasizing mental health. We're going to talk, Barbara Voss will talk in a moment about some of the efforts we'll be pushing out to the community. But we want to make sure that our firefighters in the safety stand down make sure they pay attention to their physical and mental health. And so I think that those 5 goals can translate to our community as well. And I think these are important steps that our community can take in our response to COVID-19. Now, in relation to the local efforts in El Segundo, I can proudly report that our all hazard incident management team is still in place. They're still working hard to respond to employee needs and community needs as it relates to COVID-19. That team works hard every day, and we're in a really good place, able to respond if the county public health modifies health orders, meaning that dimmer switch that they talk about, where the dimmer switch might get turned up or turned down. Our incident management team is well poised to adjust accordingly. I'd like to now kick it over to Deputy City Manager Barbara Voss, who will talk about some public information outreach that I think is important, and then we'll both be available for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Chief Donovan, and good evening, Mayor Boyles and members of council. I wanted to give you a quick update on communications. We've made some revisions to our communications effort just over the last week. We have our communications manager, communications and legislative affairs manager, Martha Guzman Hurtada, doing the weekly update every Tuesday at 11 a.m. We're going to continue to do that weekly. It's Facebook Live, and then we post the video and share the video via our website and Nixle and Facebook. So that's going to continue. We have a daily coronavirus update report that we've been sending out to our 15,000 email subscribers. We are going to change from daily to doing that on Monday and Thursday, as seems to be the case with many agencies throughout LA County. We feel that that's adequate right now to provide information to the community. And should we discover that we need to do more, we will certainly ramp it up and go back to daily or 3 times a week or whatever seems necessary. But that's what we're trying this week. And we think that it should meet the communications needs and update needs of the community. We are going to continue to post those numbers, that table with the countrywide, state, city, county numbers. So that will be a Facebook update as well, and on the website. With respect to the face covering campaign that Chief Donovan mentioned, we have actually already taken steps to try to educate and inform people that you really need to be wearing your face covering when you're out and about. And we want to, we posted some A-frame signs around town you may have seen, kind of strategically throughout the Main Street area and Richmond. Those signs right now have the protocols for, washing your hands, staying away from people 6 feet distance, and wearing a face covering. So we're going to augment that with some additional A-frame signs that just say, wear your face covering, just to try to remind people. We're also going to send some members of the incident management team out with some face coverings, the blue sort of a temporary or disposable face coverings, so that they can, if they see someone in a friendly way, hey, you really need to be wearing a face covering to protect yourself and others. We happen to have one here for you. And we're also going to do just a quick flyer that stresses the importance of face coverings. And we're going to have banners over Main Street at 2 locations. Other cities have done similar, where it's just in big letters, wear a face covering. So that's the tact we're going to take now to try to encourage everyone to wear a face covering when they're out in public. The mental health campaign, we are referring people to the LA County Department of Mental Health. They have services. They have an 800 number. It's 1-800-854-7771. And that number is for anyone to use should they be having any kind of anxiety, stress, want to talk to someone in need of mental health services. We're continuing to push that on social media. And Martha is including that in her update, and we have it on our website as well. So those are the 2 kind of newer initiatives that we're really trying to emphasize right now. Another thing I wanted to mention, if you see behind Councilmember Perstuck and She may be talking, thank you. She may be talking about that in her comments later, but the Chamber of Commerce is partnering with the LA County, the South Bay Health District and South Bay City's Health District. And they've launched a program called Safe in the South Bay. And we're encouraging our businesses to apply to become certified safe in the South Bay. And what that means is they go on the health district's website and they complete an affidavit saying, yes, we are following the protocols. They upload their signed county protocols that they're following the safety measures that the county is requiring. And then they become certified and they get a decal for their window that says safe in the South Bay to give sort of confidence to the consumer that where they're dining or shopping right now, dining outdoors, but that company, that restaurant has taken it very seriously and they have read through all the protocols, they've implemented, they've signed on the dotted line that they've done this, and they got their certificate to prove it. So we are partnering with the chamber from a marketing perspective to share that information and try to get as many of our El Segundo businesses to sign up. I think total in the South Bay, there's about 80 businesses that have signed up already, and probably a dozen in El Segundo. And we're just continuing to encourage businesses to do that, to take the pledge and to follow the protocols. Thank you. That's all I had.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy City Manager Voss and Chief Donovan. All right. We're going to move on to proclamation. Councilmember Perstuck, would you like to read that?
Yes, so we have a proclamation from the City of El Segundo, whereas parks and recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the City of El Segundo. And whereas our parks and recreation programs are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our community, ensuring the health of all of our citizens and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of the community and region. And whereas parks and recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, including the provision of frontline support services in the battle against the COVID-19 pandemic, and improve the mental and emotional health of all citizens. And whereas parks and recreation programs increase a community's economic prosperity, increase property values, expansion of local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas parks and recreation areas are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, improve water quality, protect groundwater, prevent flooding, improve the quality of the air we breathe, provide vegetation for development, and produce habitat for wildlife. And whereas our parks and recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide space for adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the El Segundo Recreation and Parks Department strives to engage and inspire through our guiding core values of community, diversity, fun, innovation, integrity, quality, teamwork, and tradition. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the City of El Segundo recognizes the benefits derived from the parks and recreation resources. Now, therefore, on this 21st day of July, 2020, the Mayor and the members of the City Council of the City of El Segundo hereby proclaim the month of 2020 as Parks and Recreation Month in the City of El Segundo. Oh, and Meredith, are you going to be speaking on this?
Yes, thank you so much. Just a couple quick notes. Thank you for the proclamation. Good evening, City Council. The proclamation is well stated. We all are very well aware that this July is much different than our previous Julys here in the City of El Segundo. And this year's focus and theme for July is Parks and Recreation Month is called We Are Parks and Recreation. And it's really turning the focus on recognizing the people behind the scenes, making sure that the parks and programs are well maintained, safe and welcoming and inclusive. And so I just wanted to recognize the staff that have been providing these vital services during the COVID-19 pandemic, making sure our senior citizens at Park Vista are well cared for, and monitoring the different amenities that we've been able to reopen safely for our community members, and also those serving important roles on the All Hazards Incident Management team, among a variety of other things. So thank you for the recognition, and we look forward to continuing to providing these services in whichever way the community needs. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Ms. Pettit, appreciate that. All right, public communications. Madam Deputy City Clerk Schilling, is there anyone in chamber wishing to speak?
Yes, there are. We have 7 members of the public that are here right now to speak.
Okay, and Madam Mona, I know we have quite a few comments to read as well, email, 40 or 50 at last count, I believe. Normally, we limit public communications to 30 minutes. I think our intention is to do the same thing here. And so the question is, maybe we could limit speakers in the audience to, say, 90 seconds or so?
All right. Sure.
We have about 50 emails to get through as well that all require time to communicate, so thank you.
Okay, I have the stopwatch. I know, but it's obnoxious, but I can say time is up if you like.
So
Maybe just give me a
okay.
signal, we'll see where they're at in there. Okay,
Got it.
Okay. The timer's on in the council chamber too. I'll adjust it.
okay.
You got it. Good evening, council members, Mayor Boyles, Pro Tem Mentel. My name is Vincent Zuppo. My wife Corey and I began the process of purchasing our first home in El Segundo back in 2013. Made the decision in 2017, this is where we'd raise our children. We moved to El Segundo because of the school, safety, and the small town feel. As someone born on the East Coast, born and raised, I'm proud to call El Segundo home. It pains us to know there are people in this community who don't feel the same way we do. We want to hear why. We've listened over these last few weeks. We thank those in our community who've shared their stories. We agree there are some changes that should be made. And it's at times like these, everything should be under review. We have a global pandemic. We have an economic recession. We're bordering on civil unrest in pockets of this country that are all occurring at the same time. I'm confident locally we have the right people in place at this time that will make the right decisions. What I am fearful of is our community making decisions in haste. What we believe would be helpful for everyone is, number one, more transparency from our city. Just a quick example, there's a lot of talk around budgets. Please make it easier to find historical budget detail. It's a bit challenging with the new website. As an example, our school district does a tremendous job of this. More transparency from our police, which we know Chief Whelan's working on. This includes interactions with the public, budgets, getting to know our officers. We believe in a fully funded police force for El Segundo, and we believe increased transparency and getting to know our officers could go a long way to eliminating mistrust. Lastly, and I think this one's going to be hard, but we would love to see a day where we can have a forum, a town hall type of a setting, if you will, to talk about these issues in person as a community. Many of these conversations are happening online right now on private social media groups. It's my opinion this is divisive and it's not helping to find a solution. We have organizers of protests being threatened because of their beliefs. We have local business owners being falsely accused of attending recent protests and labeled as racist on online reviews, as well as messaging their companies. This type of behavior needs to stop. I would love to see our city council, as well as this entire community, rise above what we see in other parts of the state and country and be leaders that can bring this community together. My closing comments are going to be that Chief Whalen made a comment recently. The past few months are pivotal for law enforcement. I would take that a step further and say this is true for our entire society as a whole. We should all be open to the opportunity for improvement and self-examination. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Zuppo, slightly over, but thank you.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Leila Shu, and I live in El Segundo, 26 years. I'm here regarding the short-term rentals. First, I want to thank the city for comprehensively studying and addressing the short-term rental situation. I have a couple of implementation questions. how will the city be monitoring to ensure the short-term rental owners is indeed living on the site at the time of the rental? I read the whole new rules through, so these questions are based on that. There is a limit of 2 adults per bedroom, maximum 6 adults excluding children. Let's take a hypothetical situation. There is large 4-bedroom house, 3 bedrooms available for rental. That makes 6 adults. But there is no limit for children. Let's say they all have 3 children, so that's 15 people all together. Now, what is the age for a child? Is it 12 years, 18 years? I didn't see it anywhere on that new proposal. And where are they? If all the 3 couples, every couple has 3 children, where are the children going to sleep? If there's two people in 1 bedroom.
Ms. Shu, can you wrap it up, please? Try and keep everyone at 90 seconds.
You know, I'm not really happy about that. Somebody else hijacked all the time with 50 letters here.
Sorry you feel that way.
So you don't let me read this?
If you can wrap it up.
Okay, all right. I read it real quick. Many short-term rentals in El Segundo are listed under different cities such as Playa del Rey and Westchester. How is the city of El Segundo monitoring these short-term rentals? Many of these homes, apartments, ADUs, gymnasiums, and gyms, pods are run professionally by people and companies that don't reside in El Segundo. These dwellings and short-term rentals are advertised in several platforms outside Airbnb and other well-known platforms. And
Ms. Shu, I'm going to have to stop you there. I have the unpopular job of keeping people to time. Thank you for your time. Madam Clerk, Mona will get your information if there are any other follow-up questions. And I know City Manager Mitnick was taking.
Okay, I will send you a letter then and put all this in there.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. My name is John Pickhaver. I am a resident of El Segundo and a member of El Segundo for Black Lives. I'm here today seeking an update on your thoughts regarding our demands sent last month. Do they seem feasible to you? If not, why? Also, we look forward to the creation of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. It really should be great for our city. But I understand it will take some time before this committee is formed and up and running efficiently. So we'd like to know what actions the City Council is taking in the short term to make changes so El Segundo is a more welcoming and safer place for Black, Indigenous people of color. At the June 16th meeting, you said you hear us. We know you are listening and we appreciate your attention. But now is the time for action. There are a few loud voices of resistance in town who are unwilling to acknowledge the hurt so many of our brave Black neighbors have shared with us these last several weeks regarding their experiences with racism and discrimination here in El Segundo. This is why we need an active show of support from you, the Council. We need to hear you say you understand there are real issues here in town. We need to hear you say you believe our Black neighbors, and we need to hear you say that change is on the way. Please take action, and please take action now. Thank you.
Do this right. Okay, there we go. Mona Eisman, 415 Concord Street. Very excited after 4 years to be here that the City Council is voting to preserve and promote our community, neighbors, safety in our special town. The pandemic has made me more grateful for knowing our neighbors. On the 400 block of Concord, we have 2 long-term rentals. 1 block over is almost all rental property, but I've gotten to know everyone. And so it has made me see what is special about this town as we've been here, confined together, getting to know each other. The regulation is written in the spirit of responsible home sharing, with guidelines, with specific guidelines and consequences for homeowners. Most important will be to plan, to monitor and enforce. The goal will be fair, fast, proactive enforcement, not protracted, very expensive legal action. as we're having today. That is not good for the city, certainly, and it is not, there's nothing positive about that. What specific policies for police and code enforcement will there be to confirm number of guests and on-site presence of owner? One of the people that wrote a letter and that is in contention does not live on that property, even though she says she does. There's a room, there's a lock, there are many tricks to this business. Airbnb is struggling to maintain this business model that they hope would be the largest hotel chain in the world at some point, and certainly that model is crumbling. Okay. What are we going to do? Professional investors, homeowners, renters, this is their business. They make lots of money. What are we going to do to transition them to long-term rental and or our responsible home sharing? Many cities have promoted long-term rental. They've taken an active approach. And I hope there's a plan to transition these folks, not just let them advertise and say it's in Playa or say it's in Westchester, but really recognize.
Wait, Mona, public communications got muted somehow. Not sure what happened there. Public communications is muted. There you go. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Amanda Touchton. I am a resident in El Segundo. I'm a parent, I'm a small business owner, and I'm here today because I was here on June 16th asking for the change that this city so desperately needs. And what I see today in the agenda item that's presented to me is that it will not be until February or March of 2021 until recommendations for change are made. That's too long. That's not quick action. That's not fast action. This city shut down the schools on Friday. On Monday, my daughter had online learning started. We responded to a national emergency. We responded quickly. We responded efficiently. Racism and the struggles in this country are a national emergency. El Segundo can respond. It can respond quickly and it can respond efficiently. March of 2021 until the first recommendations for change are made is too long. Mayor Boyles, you made a pledge. You pledged to make change. March of 2021 is not keeping your pledge to the citizens of El Segundo. I understand that nothing can happen overnight, but March of 2021 before recommendations can be made is frankly, in a town this size, ridiculous. I'm here today to ask you to take real and concrete action and to take it now. I'm here today to ask you how you intend to pick the members of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, what criteria you intend to use, who is going to be sitting in judgment and making those decisions. These are important questions that haven't been answered. The first thing we need to address is issues of transparency and accountability.
Just to be consistent, could you please wrap it? You can finish your thought, but yeah, thank you.
The first issue that this council and that you, Mayor, need to address are issues of transparency and accountability. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Angel Salazar. I've been a resident of El Segundo for over 25 years. I am a family member of a former mayor of El Segundo. I'm extremely proud to live in a city like this. I just want to thank all of you guys for your time, for hearing us out. I do want to make a statement on the DEI. I believe that it is something that does take time. It is something that should not be rushed into activities or, it's very easy to make demands and it's very hard to run a city. And I just want you guys to know that there is a ton of citizens and residents of this city that appreciate you guys. We appreciate you not jumping to any haste decisions. And, as someone that's been here as long as I have and have grown up with, a Mexican family I do know that there has been past issues with policing in the city, but I also know that there's been amazing things with policing in the city, including police officers putting their lives on the line for us and protecting people back at the Pacific theaters. I do want to state that if there is something that these demands that are being made is extremely critical of the city, what do you guys believe are those things? Is El Segundo really a racist city? I don't believe so. And if you guys do believe that that is the case, I would love to see what specific points that you guys believe El Segundo being a racist city as well are. I hope you guys do take the time to really read through the letters that were sent in to us. Yeah, not a problem. Again, I just want to thank you guys for your time and knowing that this is not something that should be rushed into. I would really appreciate us vetting more all of the demands and everything else that is going on with this movement. I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
All right. Hey there, I'm back again from last time. I'm with El Segundo for Black Lives as well. Just to give you a quick update on the numbers to start. You know, we have some 860 on the Facebook and over 500 now on the Instagram.
Sorry to interrupt you. Can you state your name, please?
Oh, Elias Garcia. I'm a resident of El Segundo. I went to the middle school and the high school, so I've been here for a little while. And I am a member of El Segundo for Black Lives. I am the social media and press committee leader. But yeah, so yeah, the numbers, you know, there's easily, even assuming some overlap and some out of city, that's easily over 1,000 voters, just so you guys know. And the other thing I would like to ask about is we've been slowing down our in-person events because of the coronavirus. Of course, we don't want to put people at risk by having them come out too often, especially since things are ramping up again. However, when we do have our events, counter-protesters like to not wear masks and then get really close to our people, which is, you know, it's fine that they're there. But since I heard you guys earlier talking about how you want to start enforcing, or at least more strongly recommending masks, I'm asking that you, when we do have our events in person, help keep our protesters safe while they're out there. Like we make sure that everyone that we have out there has a mask and is socially distancing, but we can't control the counter protesters.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
All right, we have concluded public communications here in the council chamber.
Thank you, Ms. Schilling. Appreciate that. All right, Madam Clerk, next to you.
All right, so if it was okay with you, if someone spoke in person, I pulled their written communication.
That works, and I know the one gentleman spoke. I think he read verbatim with the email that we received. So thank you.
Yeah, I believe it was Amanda's and Mona Eisman. Those are the two that I pulled.
Okay.
Mr. Pickhaver's came after the time, so I believe I forwarded it to you. All right, guys, here I go. Dear City Council members, I am writing to express my support for authorization of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. As an El Segundo homeowner, small business owner, and parent, I recognize that this is a momentous occasion for the city to evidence its deep and sincere commitment to address its historic and ongoing shortcomings with respect to issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I urge you to adopt implementation recommendations for the commission that give the commissioner sufficient resources and accesses to allow them to identify and evaluate such shortcomings and to propose remedial and prospective solutions. Thank you for your attention to this issue of utmost importance. Tony Michaels. This is from Jan Zucchi. She asks, what criteria will be used to select members of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission, and who will ultimately have a say as to which applicants are chosen? When will the commission hold its first meeting, and what powers will the commission be invested with to shape and implement DEI policies? My name is Erin Workman, and I'm a resident and parent in El Segundo. I'd like to inquire about the progress and actions taken in regard to responding to the demands set forth by the El Segundo for Black Lives Matters group. I'd also like to know what the process will be for selecting members of the DEI Commission and when that decision will be made. In short, what is being done now to promote and create equity for all residents, students, and visitors of El Segundo? It is obvious that change is necessary, and your residents are waiting for actions and firm decisions to be made. Please advise and thank you for committing to enacting sustaining changes to policies, policing, community outreach, and education in our community. Good evening. My name is Laura Sorensen, and I'm a resident of El Segundo. On behalf of Black Lives Matters El Segundo, I am writing to inquire about the City Council's progress in addressing the demands that BLM ES presented to the city on June 27th. Specifically, could you address the following questions? Have you set a date to review and revise the ESPD's use of force policy? What is that date? Have you set a date to review the city's law enforcement budget? What is that date? Where is the city policy ensuring that officers who violate use of force policies will be held accountable, prosecuted, or fired? Question mark. Have you created the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee? If so, who are the members and how did you choose them? If not, by what date will you create this committee? Thank you for your attention. This is from Corey Chitlick. I commend Mayor Boyles for taking the commitment to action under My Brother's Keeper Alliance. I read the 4 key actions and their reasonable and common sense limits on police use of force. I also in full support of the El Segundo's Where We Stand use policies. With that being said, I hope that the city does not follow Mayor Garcetti's actions of redirecting police funding in the 2020-21 budget. We are nothing like the city of Los Angeles, where there's a despairing need for reforms in minority health, education, and jobs. The 2020-2021 strategic plan has goal number 2 to support community safety and preparedness. Please do not give in to the protests to defund our local police. In fact, I would support increasing police funding to add more social workers, training courses, and mental health resources. Thank you for your public service during these difficult times. Corey Zuppo. Dear City Council, as a 15-year resident of this outstanding city, I am consistently impressed. El Segundo and its citizenry are unselfish, generous, caring, welcoming, diverse, educated, talented, contemporary, and important. Recently, El Segundo has been maliciously attacked. El Segundo for Black Lives Matters has falsely and with no evidence libeled and slandered our city, its inhabitants, its institutions, and elected officials with claims of racism, sexism, homophobia, intolerance, white privilege, xenophobia, and brutality. They have made unreasonable, ill-founded demands which do not align with our truth or our values. With firmness and courage, you must admonish these unfounded claims and disregard their unnecessary demands. With the power of our truth and the strength of our great community, please lead El Segundo into its great future and not be dissuaded by politically treacherous few. Sincerely, Danny Tron. My name is Edie Harkenreiter, and I have been a resident of this great city since 1982. I raised my daughter and now my granddaughter here, and I am hoping my great-grandchildren. However, like so many citizens, both long-standing and new, we are concerned about the attack taking place on our city by the El Segundo Black Lives Matters organization. This group has made many false accusations with no evidence to back them. Accusations such as racism, acts of police brutality, homophobia, white privilege, just to name a few. In addition to these accusations, they have made wild and unreasonable demands which do not align with the values of this community. I plead with the leaders of the city to not be falsely led or persuaded by this hate group. Most sincerely, Edie Harkenreiter. My name is Dottie Alexanian, and I've lived in El Segundo for 5 years. Transparency and the input of our town citizens is essential to formation of the DEI committee. How will it be selected? When will it be implemented? And what are you doing to make sure everyone who isn't attending this meeting knows about it and its purpose so we can hold you accountable? Thank you. On a lighter note, ESMOA wishes everyone well, and we invite you to visit us online at esmoa.org for our free online program offerings through ESMOA at Home that includes free resources for all ages and virtual tours. ESMOA admires the work El Segundo for Black Lives and is doing with the city, and we look forward to working together. ESMOA thanks El Segundo TV for highlighting El Segundo's nonprofit organizations, the Old Town Music Hall, ESMOA, and the Automobile Driving Museum. These institutions need your support to continue. Regards, Barbara Baum. As a multi-generational El Segundo family, concerned citizen, and parent, I am writing to address my concerns regarding the recent demands brought upon our ESPD and ESUSD by the El Segundo for Black Lives group. The accusations that have been posted by this group are not only baseless, but unjustified. Although no quantitative evidence has been provided to support the falsehood that El Segundo is systemically racist, our mayor and police chief have made the public statements that support these claims. These meritless admissions undermine our community, police, and our schools, as well as open the floodgates to never-ending demands along with potential legal liabilities. El Segundo is not racist. Reject all demands. Defend our police. Deny further bias in our schools. Should this council acquiesce to this extortion, we will pursue any and all legal remedy to block these actions and pursue your immediate removal. Kind regards, Rhonda H. Andrew. Dear El Segundo City Council, my name is Arthur Schaefer, and I work for the international organization Mass Resistance. We are pro-family and we are pro-rule of law. We are deeply dismissed and outraged to learn that you have placated the demands of a mostly outsider organization, which goes by the name of El Segundo for Black Lives. They have smeared, defamed, and slandered the city of El Segundo. Why is the city capitulating to their demands? Why did the city go out of its way to set up a diversity, equity, and inclusion commission in the first place? The city of El Segundo needs to focus on the needs of El Segundo citizens, not outside race-baiting agitators. For the record, Black Lives Matter is a militant Marxist domestic terrorist organization with strong anti-Semitic leaning. This El Segundo for Black Lives group has attempted to distance themselves from that label, but the truth is they are part and parcel of that violent, anti-American, anti-family militant group, and they should receive no support from anyone in the city, especially from elected officials such as yourself. Sincerely, Arthur Schaefer, Organization Director for Mass Resistance. Hang on. And to whom it may concern, my name is Danny Gibson, and my family lives in El Segundo. I live not far away in Palms. I am reaching out to check on your council's work to meet the demand of its citizens to empower the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission and to establish a citizen review board for the El Segundo Police Department. Both are sound and necessary demands under any circumstances, but given heightened awareness following the police killings of a disproportionate number of Black and brown people in this country, as well as the disproportionate effects of the COVID-19 pandemic in this country, the El Segundo City Council will do right by the community to enact both as quickly as possible. What are the timelines on the above demands? Who will comprise both the DEI Commission and Oversight Board? And how will you ensure the voices of the most marginalized will be represented on both? Thank you for your hard work and answers. Danny Gibson. Dear City Council, recently it has come to my attention that a group of people that refer to themselves as the El Segundo for Black Lives has put forward a list of demands of the El Segundo Police Department and the El Segundo School District. These demands are unwarranted and baseless. The police department and school district are why many people call El Segundo home. Any effort by this group to defund the police or to alter the makeup of the community base their vision base their vision and ideology is unwelcome. As a longtime resident and a property owner of El Segundo, I am writing this email to remind you that your duty as elected officials is to serve the needs of your constituency and not to acquiesce to demands of a small group of people, some of which are not even residents of El Segundo. We expect you to stand firm, refute false accusations, and to defend our police department and school district. Respectfully, Dave P. My name is Tanya Taylor, and I am an El Segundo resident who would like to know what you are going to do to foster safe and equitable community for all residents of El Segundo. I know you have put the DEI Commission in place to deal with these matters, but does this mean that you will not be engaging directly in forming an equitable society? And if you won't have direct involvement, will powers be given to the Commission so that they can actually put policies in place? If DEI Commission has no powers and are only going to act as advisors to the council members, how will you ensure that their suggestions are recorded and there is criteria for accepting or rejecting their recommendations? I'm not sure as to what exactly the DEI Commission will be doing and what you will be doing to support their efforts, and I am concerned that this commission will simply turn into a mute group. I hope that they will not become an education board for the council on matter of race, as in 2020, there are more than enough resources for this. They should be able to affect change. How will you ensure they can? Respectfully, Tanya. Jeanette Davis. I am a resident of El Segundo. My name is Jeanette Davis. We need this committee to combat racism in the city. In June, El Segundo Black Lives sent a letter outlining issues which they feel need to be addressed and resolved, specifically to public safety. The police chief never responded to the authors of the letter and chose to address basic topics outlined in the letter in an interview with a local newspaper. With the upcoming beginning of the school year and the uprising in crime in El Segundo, does the chief have any plans to answer the letter or create a forum to discuss the concerns of the letter with regards to public safety with the citizens who wrote it? If so, when? If not, why? Anthony Fozell. City Council. I'm a local resident and parent writing on a few ES4BL issues. Firstly, how will you be choosing the DEI committee and what power will the committee have? I appreciate you creating the committee, but would like a little more transparency regarding the details. It will be several months before the committee will be up and running. Can we expect any changes before then? I sincerely appreciate any answers you can provide. Thank you, Julie Holler. I am a resident and teacher at the high school. I am pleased that the city has started to formulate a diversity, equity, and inclusion commission, to which I have applied and would like to follow up with more information related to this organization. As of now, much mystery remains regarding this commission, so I would like to know what the criteria is for selection, who makes these decisions, when the decision will be made, and will this group have any power in the community? Transparency is an essential component to healthy and clear communication, and the more the public knows about the decisions that will affect public well-being, the more this does to alleviate and mitigate tensions or misunderstandings. Thank you for your consideration. Chris McNeila, El Segundo High School English teacher. Hello, my name is Genesis Jackson, and I'm a resident and parent of El Segundo. I am writing to ask the City Council about your intentions for the new DEI committee. While I am committed to the city on the creation of the committee, I am looking for clarification on the selection process and how the city intends to allow the committee to influence real measurable change. Thank you, Genesis. I would like to express my support for the El Segundo Black Lives Group. My family and I have lived here for over 30 years, and this is the first time I have seen young and old people alike marching in the streets for justice for Black people and other marginalized groups. Our town has a history of discrimination, and we need to confront that in order to move forward in the quest for justice and fairness for all. I am heartened to see all the support for this cause and look forward to seeing positive changes for our little town in the near future. Regards, Bev Maloney. My name is Victoria Romley, and I'm a resident of El Segundo. As a member of the El Segundo for Black Lives, I would like the City Council to address the following during the meeting. Please acknowledge and address the demands made by the El Segundo for Black Lives. Regarding the DEI committee, how will the committee members be chosen and what power will they have? What is the timeline? Changes are needed now. What are your plans for changes to our community before the DEI committee is informed, and fully effective. Victoria. The demands given to the city are regressive and racist and have no place in this city. No specific city ordinances are highlighted as being discriminatory or having a discriminatory impact. The city is currently facing multiple discrimination lawsuits by police officers, none of which are officers of color. There are no active lawsuits against the police or the police department claiming racial discrimination against non-white individuals. Accepting the demand shows a willingness to suspend reason and fact-based governance in favor of feelings and mythology not rooted in any real-world facts. Please read the Harvard Business Review July-August 2016 issue, How Diversity Programs Fail, showing that promoting a race-neutral environment actually improved minority enrollment and gains as opposed to focusing on diversity for diversity's sake. The belief that people of one group will somehow speak for all group is inherently racist on its face. Robert Greene. Good morning, Mayor Boyles and City Council members. I am writing this letter to let you know that I am opposed to any reduction to our police department, whether it's a reduction in officers or a reduction in funding. Any form of defunding police is always a bad idea, but it is especially a terrible idea now when there are so many criminals on our streets and so many crimes being committed. Speaking from experience, quality of life takes a very drastic downhill turn when law enforcement is reduced or limited. I strongly disagree with the idea of removing school resource officers from our schools. We shouldn't have to condone and tolerate crimes committed in our schools. If anything, I'd love to see more police officers patrolling our streets. I know that's a strong police presence anywhere. It is a deterrence against crime and a positive reinforcement of safety within our city. We need our officers to be able to respond quickly. We are fortunate to have a police department with the caliber of people that we do. I'd love to see it remain that way. Thank you, Lisa Abate. I am a parent and grandparent who grew up and is now, again, living in El Segundo. I have been heartened to see the support for the movement to address racism in El Segundo and to take a look at how policing and other city police policies affect people of color who are living here or who visit. I understand the City Council is creating a diversity council. What amount of influence will this council have? How will they be selected? What areas will they address? For example, education, policing, city hiring, etc. When will this council be in place? Thank you, Kelly Stewart. As a member of the El Segundo Black Lives with grandchildren in the ESHS, I share the growing sense of urgency for signs of positive change. The council is establishing a DEI commission, but it is not explaining its timeline, its process, or powers. We do not need another powerless council-appointed commission for the council to address our demands for an end to police racial profiling, for demilitarizing the police. Why do you have an armored tank? For shifting city budget funds to a service-oriented model, and for finally holding police accountable under revised use of force guidelines that protects this community from police abuse. This has to happen now, not tomorrow. We are not going away. Catherine Deppy, retired high school teacher. Dear Council, my name is David Hallop, and I am a resident and parent in El Segundo. I'd like to thank you for committing to enacting meaningful changes to policies, policing, community outreach, and education that will make our community a better place for all. This commitment is a great start, but it's only the first step. To that end, I am inquiring about the progress and actions taken regarding the remainder of the demands set forth by the El Segundo for Black Lives group. What else is being done at this point to promote and create equity for all residents, students, and visitors of El Segundo? Please provide more details on the process and the criteria that for selecting the DEI Commission. Thank you, David Holland. BLM of El Segundo is an anti-fascist organization run by a racist named Amanda Touchton. The city of El Segundo needs to wake up and not give in to their demands. Jose and Eloise Mendez. My name is Paula Lee, and I'm a longtime resident of El Segundo. I am writing to respectfully request an update on the city's promise towards making a more equitable, inclusive community. What measures, initiatives have been implemented and are in the work at this time in order to fill such pledge? In regards to the creation of the DEI Commission, I would like to get an unequivocal answer from the city to the following questions. What is the purpose and scope of the DEI Commission? What power will it have? What kind of interaction will it have with City Council? How will the selection process for membership on the DEI Commission happen? Who will select the members of the DEI? When will the DEI become operational? When will the commission officially start convening? And how often will it meet? Thank you, Paula Lee.
Madam Clerk, I just realized we are probably well over the 30-minute public communications limit. If the council is okay with it, we could perhaps ask the clerk for a summary or a count of how many remain that are pro either DEI committee or also going for Black Lives, because those are the recurring themes, or against, with a synopsis or just, kind of a count. Is everyone okay with that? Anyone opposed to that? Okay.
Let's see. So I have 13. I have 13 regarding BLM, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, guys. 6 against. I don't know if it's against. It's you got the gist.
Can you, after the meeting, would it be possible, if this is permissible, to send us kind of the names and the comments?
I absolutely can, because they're going to be all part of the record. So yes, I will send you them. I will keep them aside so that I know which ones I didn't read. How's that?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's see. We're on to, I think, Scott Mitnick, City Manager, it'd be appropriate for you to address some of the comments we heard, and possibly our Chief of Police as well. If you would, please.
Happy to do so, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. 2 topics. There were a few comments about the short-term rental pilot program, which is I believe it's item number 7 on the consent calendar. So when you get to the consent calendar, staff would be happy to address some of those issues and whatever questions that the City Council may have. With respect to item number 8, the majority of the comments were on the proposed Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Many of the questions about like the criteria, how people, what the committee will work on and all of that, that'll be addressed during that presentation and during council questions. And as far as the demands that came in from the El Segundo for Black Lives group, that has been acknowledged. That is in large part the reason for the diversity committee recommendation is in response to that request. Many of the issues that they've addressed will be dealt with by the diversity committee once it's up and running. These things do take time, both for short-term and long-term recommendations. We do have the police chief available in a moment. If the council's okay, he could talk about where the public can get answers to some of the questions. The police department does have a website, and it has a transparency button, and it talks about issues such as use of force and the changes that have been made, and where the department's at, and so on.
That'd be great. And Chief, the theme, one thing I heard a couple times is claims that there hasn't been any action taken. since the pledge was made. So if you could just kind of update us on what's transpired, what's been posted to your website, that'd be great, please.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, and City of El Segundo. You know, we have a community police academy, and when I address the community police academy at the beginning of each class, there's one thing I say, and that's there's nothing more important than us lowering our four walls of the police department and inviting the public in. We are your police department, El Segundo, and we don't have secrets. You know, we're very transparent, and the way we can better and more effectively police this community is by imparting knowledge on what we do to you. And so I welcome all these inquiries. I encourage everybody to go to our website, look at our policies, and ask questions. That's important. You need to understand what's going on. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, prior to the events that have unfolded since, the last few months, we actually were in the midst of a very robust policy review of our entire operating manual. And we actually contracted with a third-party company to do that for us. Now, when the Floyd incident happened and the protests started, there was, as to be expected, a laser focused on our use of force policy. And to be clear, I think we had a very good use of force policy previously, but what the policy didn't do was readily bring to the fore the issues that were most important to the community. And there's been several national movements that are out there, various entities calling for different types of reform with use of force policies. And I think it is important that while there can be lots of people who have ideas and opinions and input on what a policy is, there's a very robust process that we have to go through before we can actually finalize our policies. And that's in particular with a use of force policy. Our use of force policy is done in accordance with the law primarily, both statutory and case law. It's done in accordance with best practices, with law enforcement practitioners, and feedback from a variety of sources. Now, I know that some of what we're hearing from a national perspective right now with the 8 Can't Wait and other campaigns is the idea that we send our policy out to the community, that we gather feedback, and from that feedback, we look to drafting our policy. We actually drafted our policy before these campaigns really got underway. So the feedback process really has already started. We already got our policy up and running into what I believe we have a very good policy that is in line for the most part with what many in the community and elsewhere and nationally are asking for. There are a few, if you look at the 8 Can't Wait, there are a few things that are being asked for that are not in line with best practices, that are not in line with keeping officers in the community safe, and therefore we have not adopted them. But by and large, we have adopted what is being asked for out there. And I encourage the public to go to the El Segundo PD website. On there, you'll see a button that says transparency. You click on that and you can find our policy in its entirety. And then we've also developed an infographic so that you can see how our policy stacks up with what the national demands are. And I think you'll see that by and large, we are doing what people are asking us to do. And in the areas where we're not, we offer an explanation as to why we're not. And we certainly look forward to more communication on this. And I think once this committee is up and running, we'll have an opportunity to delve further into the whys and why nots of why what we do with our policy and why we have our policy the way it is. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Council members? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, Chief. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. All right, moving on. Procedural motions. We have a consideration of a motion to read all ordinances and resolutions on the agenda by title only. And if you would please state in your last name, make a motion to read all ordinances and resolutions by title only, and also use your last name for a second.
Nichols, so moved.
Thank you.
Pimentel, second.
Great. Madam Clerk, please take a voice vote.
Councilmember Drew,
Yes.
Councilmember Nichol,
Aye.
Councilmember Perstuck,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel,
Yes.
and Mayor Boyles.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk. 5-0 on that.
5-0, sorry guys, 5-0. I think I'm tired of talking.
Thank you. Okay, consent calendar. Are there any polls from the calendar?
Mr. Mayor, I believe I have to pull 7 because I'm recused from it, so I can't vote for it on the consent calendar.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Any other polls?
We can just note that you didn't, you don't have to pull it. We'll just note that you didn't vote for it. That you didn't participate.
So shall it be.
So are we doing 2 separate votes still, Madam Clerk?
You don't have to do 2 separate votes. We'll just note that Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel did not vote for item number 7 due to possible conflict.
Okay, great. All right. I need a motion to approve consent items 1 through 7 then.
Giroux, so moved.
Yes, sir.
Nichols, second.
Thank you. Yes, sir. All right, Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Giroux,
Yes.
Councilmember Nichol,
Aye.
Councilmember Perstuck,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel, except for item number 7,
Aye.
and Mayor Boyles.
Yes.
Okay, you pass. Voice vote 5-0.
Great. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Up next, item D, staff presentations, which is to authorize the establishment of a new diversity, equity, and inclusion committee, approve implementation recommendations, and add to city's local appointment list pursuant to the California Government Code 54972. Mr. Mitnick, who's going to report on this item?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'll give the presentation. Other staff will be available as necessary. Let me just say it's an honor to be here to present this item. This topic has been discussed by the council on a number of times in response to the community protest and other forms of communication that has come to you. I'm going to be reading from agenda item number 8, and for those who are trying to find it, it's on pages 107 through 110 on the agenda. Through this presentation and perhaps through council member questions, just about every question that the speakers and those who sent emails in raised will be addressed. So I'll just get to what's being proposed with the committee. It's the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, and it's in response to requests that have come to the council. So we have a number of applications, several dozen that have come in so far, and we're recommending that the deadline for applications be extended from this Friday, the 17th, or excuse me, from what was the 17th through the 31st, so through the end of next week. That will ensure ample opportunity for those who may just be finding out about it and who are interested in serving. It's recommended to help with that process, with the interview process, as well as the selection process, that the council use a diversity expert, a consultant who specializes in diversity, equity, and inclusion issues. There are a number of individuals out there. We have several different possibilities that we could use to serve in that capacity. That would ensure objectivity, neutrality, and balance. So it's not just being led by your staff or led by the council. You'll have somebody who is in fact an expert in this field. As far as the committee membership, it's recommended that the applicants meet one of 4 criteria. Either the applicant is a resident of El Segundo, or is a student in El Segundo attending a public or a private school, is a property owner, or is employed by a business located in El Segundo. So those 4 different criteria. As far as the interviews, it's recommended that we do the interviews as quickly as possible. So if you think about it, if all the applications come in by the end of next week, it'll be a matter of the council member, your schedule and we're already working with you on dates that would work for you. It's recommended that you interview all the candidates, so it'll be an involved process. And we'll do those as quickly as possible, as I indicated. With respect to the number of committee members and term lengths, we're recommending that you cap it at 9. that you have a single digit total, so it's easier to manage and to achieve quorum. Council will recall when you've had ad hoc committees with a larger number of members, it's hard to achieve a quorum. That is to have the required number of people in attendance. So term length, we're recommending you go with 3 years, just like you do with most of your other committees, boards, and commissions. Some are 2 and some are 3 years. And we're recommending that you stagger them, so you'll have 3 that are serving initially a 2-year term, 3 a 3-year term, and 3 a 4-year term. And then as time goes by, it'll cycle through nicely. The appointment date would take place at your upcoming September meeting, either September 1 or September 15th, if you're able to do the interviews fast enough. The first committee meeting date, well, that will depend on the availability of the committee, but probably in September, shortly after the committee is established. Frequency of meetings, they'll have to figure that out, what works for them. It could be twice a month, once a month, whatever works for the committee members. Now, in terms of support, who will help this committee, we're taking this topic very seriously, and myself as city manager and our deputy city manager, Barbara Voss, we will be available to them early on, as will the police chief and the necessary department heads. And once having that diversity expert, the facilitator, that person will be coordinating these meetings and helping the committee run its meetings and go through the issues that it will go through. And speaking of the issues, the meat of this, the study topics on the top of page 110, there are 4 initial study topics that are recommended. These topics are based on the input and feedback from the different speakers, the Black Lives Matter group, and others. And if you look at the comments from your previous council meeting when you talked on this subject, really the core issue is public safety. So it's recommended one of the initial topics is public safety, and that will include a review of the police department, its policies, its practices, its training, diversity, and the future direction. And as you heard from your police chief, Bill Whalen, he's very receptive. Both the chief and myself as city manager were very receptive to going through these issues, answering whatever questions come at us, to do whatever research is necessary. And the chief will be happy to walk them through how the police department works and how we deal with the issues that they've raised. So public safety would be one of the key initial study topics. Another would be to look at the overall city organization outside of police, outside of fire, to take a look at our policies and practices, our training, and what our numbers are. What is the diversity of the city? And we'll do the same for the police department. We'll look at the diversity numbers of the department and how they relate and compare it to the community, or to the community as a whole. And speaking of the community, that would be the third topic, to take a look at the community's demographics, look at the data of who lives here, what the history has been, how the demographics are changing, and what the future holds. The fourth study topic that we're recommending is that of the local economy. How does the private sector deal with and embrace diversity? How do the companies that are located here manage and deal with this issue through their own diversity programs and educational opportunities? And what do their numbers, if we can get them for some of the companies, what are their numbers like, and how do they reflect the community? So those are the initial study topics. And as the group meets, if they want to look at other topics, that certainly can be looked at. But it's important when you're establishing a new committee or a board that the parameters and the understanding of what they're going to work on is clear. And related to that is the actual recommendations and the timing. So we heard some speakers say, hey, March 2021 is too long. As noted in the report, if you think through the timing of this and the topics they're going to be looking at, and we'll bring in experts to answer their questions. Members of the committee may want to go on ride-alongs with police officers or spend time talking with the men and women that work in the police department through field visits and so on. That will take some time. But we can come down, or the committee can come back to the council with recommendations as quickly as it would like after it does its review and its research and formulates its recommendations. So it could be by the end of 2019, or it might be in early 2021. There's some technical issues, and we'll deal with them later in terms of a resolution and bylaws and stuff like that, we'll wait for the committee to be established and up and running, and then we can work out what the bylaws will be and all of the other necessary paperwork. So that's it in a nutshell. And then there's a timeline that repeats some of the dates that I've talked about. And with that, staff's available for questions. And I just want to again reiterate how receptive we are to this, and we are embracing this opportunity. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mitnick. Any questions for Mr. Mitnick from the council? Mr. Councilman Nickel.
Mr. Mitnick, public comments, numerous occasions people asked or commented on the timeline attached to the committee. I think of the 6 people on this video call right now, you have more experience in public affairs than any one of us in regards to years. Can you speak to that timeline and add a little background to it so that the viewing public can understand?
Sure. Mr. Mayor, members of the council member, I don't want to sound overly bureaucratic. So the simple answer is the committee can move as fast as it wants, but like a lot of things, since there's no clear specific purpose in terms of you're to look at this issue and come back with these specific recommendations. These are fairly broad issues. So there may be a significant amount of research that needs to be done depending on the level of involvement of the committee. You know, when you talk about, well, let's look at the police department's budget and let's recommend that we make cuts and all that. Well, that's going to take time to take a look at what that is and what are the consequences of what's being recommended. So it can move as fast as the group would like, or it may take some time. But I'll tell you, having been down this path many times, you were making reference to my experience, I dealt with issues like this. It rarely moves as quickly as the group thinks it will, because the group itself is going to have a lot of questions. And the more members that are part of the committee, the more questions and assignments that will come from it. So I wish I could be more specific, but we can be, if it all goes well, we can be back to you 2 or 3 months with recommendations. But more likely it will be early 2021.
Councilor Drew.
Yeah, I think on this, do we want to do it quickly or we want to do it right? That's really what it comes down to. I understand that there's a call to have things done quick, immediate gratification, get things done. I get that. But the truth is that we're trying to establish something from literally from zero. I mean, we've never had this before in the city. So it's going to take time. It's going to take time to interview 40 plus people. It's incumbent upon us. So one of the questions came up, how are you going to decide? Well, the council's going to decide based on the interviews we have. And I don't mean to speak for everybody, but my feeling is that we want to find or establish a group that represents what the city is and what it wants to be when it grows up. That's a really important thing to do, and that's going to take time. And I'm not just going to rush in and say, I choose you 9 because it'll make a certain group happy. I'm personally not going to do that. I'm going to take my time with it. And listen, interviewing 40 plus people takes a long time. It might take 2 rounds of interviews to get it down because we want to do it right. We don't want to have to keep doing it over and over again, start something up and then blow it up again because it doesn't work. You know, we wanted to have something that has teeth and has legs, and this is the process for doing that. So I think you did a great job on this, staff. All the questions and things I heard in public comment and things that people had about this, I think you answered pretty much everything right here. So very, very well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Drew. Councilmember Perstech.
Yes, thank you, Scott and staff, for putting this together in such a short time. I think it's real important that we do it right, as Councilmember Drew mentioned. I also want to make sure that we are doing and I'm glad you're extending the time for applications. So I want to make sure we have applications that that encompass all the voices in El Segundo, and that we do a complete outreach to people, the seniors in our community, to all the groups in our community, so that this group is comprised of a good broad base of our community, so that the the recommendations are meet everyone's needs. So I just want to make sure that we do an outreach to all the different communities in our town to ensure that we have applications of every group. But thank you for your work, and I'm really excited for this this commission to get started. And I think our town. I know that when Mayor Boyles and I joined the council, we were big on change, and we've been implementing a lot of change, pushing behind the scenes and making a lot of change. And I'm just excited to see us continue in that direction and ensure that our residents and our community members feel welcome in our town. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Perstock. Any other questions or comments? Mayor Pro Tem?
I would like to endorse a bit of the staff concept of giving them 4 broad study areas. I think that dovetails nicely with what Council Members Giroux and Perstick were saying, with having diversity across the complexion of the city, whether it's economic diversity or racial diversity. I think part of this is to explore blind spots that we don't necessarily even perceive are out there. And I think by having a broad swath of study areas and a broad swath of people represented, I think we can best make any adjustments as needed or improvements to the way the city is run or administered to get some of the desired outcomes. So I thank the staff for coming up with those broad areas and giving this committee the area to grow and to find its sort of purpose in things that we may not, as council people, immediately see. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So, Councilmember Nichols.
Yeah, I just think it's worth noting to Councilmember Giroux's point of doing it or doing it right, and some of the public comments touched on are we going to wait to set policy or make any change until 2021? And I guess the answer is we don't have to, but I think it's very important that our public has an understanding as to, if you want us to have your input in the policies that we are going to make, if you want to have your voice be a part of the discussion and help to shape the community in which we're all living in, then the formation of this committee is critical. And the discussions that will be had in this committee are critical. And so I hate to say, hey, this is the speed in which government works, but I think that putting those voices together on a committee that can then come to us with recommendations is only going to help us shape the best policy possible for moving forward. And I know that the timeline's not ideal, but I believe it is the right way to do things. And so I am 110% behind the formation of this committee, the framework that's been set out. And I think to touch on a little bit of like, how are we going to determine who is put on this committee? There's really no rule book per se as to we interview for any of the CCBs. I think it would be helpful if we had a bit of dialogue here tonight for all the people that are watching, how we go about that, and I can give the Reader's Digest version. Is we sit down and we have a list of individuals that are going to be interviewing for specific committees, commissions, and boards. We talk about who's on that committee, commission, and board currently, what the makeup is, what they're working on, and what are the dynamics involved. And then we interview the people and kind of look for strengths and weaknesses of each one of those individuals and how they will work with the other committee members and try to put together a group of individuals that represents our community as a whole in each and every one of our commissions, committee, and boards. And many times, like last go around with the Arts and Culture Committee, there were 6 applicants for 1 spot, I believe, and that was really hard. And the 5 of us sat around and talked about, well, who's the right person for this? Why would they be the right person? So on and so forth. And unfortunately, we have to deliver bad news to most people and only good news to some. But I want the public to know that there's no rule book, there's no conspiracy as to, hey, here's how we do it, and these are the rules, and we check all these boxes, and then those people get appointed. So much of, I think, the community's disconnect with us is that we will reference closed session as if it's like we're the Wizard of Oz and we're behind the curtain, you know. And I think for us to allow them to have a glimpse into what that actually looks like, I think would help them to understand the process and be more like this could just be a free-flowing dialogue instead of each one of us individually speaking. I don't know.
Thank you, Councilman Nickel. I'm not totally clear on what you want to get out of that. Could you maybe define a little bit, or maybe Mayor Pro Tem? Yeah, you want to chime in? Chris, we can't hear you.
I think a part of what Councilmember Nichols alluding to is that, you know, people have concerns about how people will be selected and what the alchemy goes in. You know, it's not, you know, it's not trying out for a baseball team, right, with the best 9 hitters. Like, oh, I needed 9 hitters and a left-handed pitcher, and then we move on. Some of this is a bit of us trying to sew together a quilt, and because there's some subjectivity to that, there will inherently be questions about why someone was chosen and why someone was not. You know, I think the Rec and Parks Committee was a sort of classic example of, hey, we have certain people who do the park stuff and certain people who do the rec stuff, and we want to make sure that we have people who represent the different parts of park and rec, because it's necessarily a diverse body in and of itself. So in this regard, you know, how we select people for it, I think will be, you know, it's subjective, and we will want people who do, in the name of diversity, equity, and inclusion, have a diverse voices and voices that sure that no one, you know, I think our worst outcome of this would to select 9 people and then feel like we still have a blind spot left onto this where there's a part of or a slice of the demography of the city that is not represented.
Thank you. Yeah, Councilman Drew.
Really good points. Thanks, Scott, for bringing that up. Because look, when you look at what staff just put together and outlined all this right now, that those are, as Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, these are 4 pretty broad topics. So I will tell you right now, one of the things that I would be looking for is who's done their homework, who understands what our police policies are right now, who understands what these certain aspects are of the city, and also what is your real intent for being on that commission? Because let's be honest right now, the 9 of you that get on this commission, you're now going to be faced with a lot of people second guessing things that you're doing as well. So it's a blessing and a curse at the same time to be on the ground floor of something. But we really want to, the things about inclusion. So it's everybody. This is not a 9-member El Segundo for Black Lives Matter commission. There could be people from that commission on there or from that group on there, but it doesn't mean that we're all of a sudden just going to load 9 people on there that are in one direction. I think the real key is to try to get enough people in the room from different backgrounds that can find that common ground where things actually get accomplished. And I think that's going to be the most important part of the selection process.
Thank you, Councilman Drew. One thing that I just recalled with the help of someone is that the interview process is public. And if you all recall, it doesn't matter what CCB, committee, commission, and board we're interviewing, the door is open. And so we do that. We have to do that to follow the law. So it's a transparent process. It is open to the public, and we're really excited about having so many applicants already. And I know by extending the deadline, we'll get even more. Any further comments? Yeah, Councilman Nickel.
It's more a question. So in COVID-19 world, aka bizarro world that we're living in, open door interviews, is that a open Zoom link? Is that like this where it's up on YouTube simultaneously? City Clerk, so nice to see you.
We can work that out, and I'm sure Mr. Hensley, who just arrived, will help us as well. But yes, we will work it out as we do with public comments and all of that. We will make it work.
Under the current county order, and changes from time to time, as we all know, but as it currently is structured, it would be on a Zoom type situation or a video link like this.
All right, I just want to make sure. I mean, in all of this, I believe we all want to be as transparent as humanly possible. And, you know, I can't speak for the 4 of you, but I can speak for me. And I know that I want us to continue to move forward. I want us to continue to evolve as, you know, as a community. I want us to be brought closer together versus divided apart. And in thinking of the formation of this committee and the structure of it and everything, a couple people commented that we are almost acquiescing to a demand to put up this committee, and I would implore that individual or those individuals that have that thought to see it a different way. Imagine that we were not in the exact situation we're in, and we decided that, hey, we feel that we should bring this topic, this subject matter, to the forefront, and let's try to evolve as a community. And I think evolving as a community is not a bad thing, and having this conversation is not a bad thing. And so I don't think that we are acquiescing at all. I think that we are being very responsible in our step forward for our community. I thought it was pretty funny, Lance, how you said, when we grow up. I tried not to laugh, but now that I'm thinking about it, I have to. But I think evolution is the key. We live in this beautiful world, this wonderful nation, and we are all free. And for us to continue to learn together and grow together and make mistakes together, that's human nature. I hope that this is a very open dialogue. I hope that when I say something I'm not supposed to say, that I don't get burned at the stake for it, because I can guarantee you I'm gonna step in it at some point. It's just how my mouth works. The words come out before the thoughts cross my brain. But I'm very proud of us as a council, and I'd be happy to make a motion to move this forward when the time comes, Mayor Boyles.
Thank you, Councilman Nickel. I just have a couple thoughts. One is, Mr. Mitnick, I totally concur. Your staff did an incredible job under a pretty tight timeline to pull together a very comprehensive report. So congratulations, I commend you for that. It was comprehensive, and I believe you anticipated almost all, if not all, of the questions that we got from the public. So job well done. Whoever put that staff report together, please commend them. Secondly, I just want to recognize that it's rare that we have what I'm anticipating to be 5-0 unanimous support for something and such alignment on a matter that is of such importance to our city. So I think it's worth noting that we all feel very strongly about this. So it's good. It's good to see. There's nothing more to say about that. So unless anyone has any further comments, I'd entertain a motion.
Nickel, so moved.
Thank you, sir.
First, second.
Okay, Madam Clerk, roll call
I
vote.
thought that was going to be Scott. Is he locked up? Locked up over there.
Councilmember Giroux,
Yes.
Councilmember Nickel,
Aye.
Councilmember Perstuck,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel,
Yes.
Mayor Boyles.
Yes.
You now are 5-0 for this
Thank
motion.
you, Madam Clerk. Okay. Let's see, we are on to reports. City Clerk.
I'm good. Carry on.
Thank you. City Treasurer, is Matt with us tonight, or Dino? I don't believe so. Okay, Councilmember Giroux.
Yeah, just real quick, and hopefully I don't fumble this one here, but there's obviously a lot of letters written, a lot of people that have been coming into the chamber, especially this evening, and it's really important to understand and that the groups or the people on both sides of these groups, whether it be El Segundo for Black Lives, people who don't want that, whatever it is, they're your neighbors. They're the people you eat outside with on Richmond Street right now. I know people from both those groups, and trust me, I know you've all sat in the Little League stands together rooting on your kids at one point in time. Let's not forget that we're all kind of in this community here together, and those are still the same people that you've known. It's important to try to get that understanding a little bit, even if you have differences in the way you look at life. I think that will help the process as we get further along, because there are some good things that are going to happen here, and I think we can all be proud of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Giroux. All right, Councilmember Nickel.
Thank you, Mayor Boyles. I just want to show my empathy towards all the parents of school-aged children out there that received the news earlier or end of last week that schools will be going virtual. You're not alone. We're all of us are in this together. These are tough times. Please be kind to each other. Please try your best to keep a level head and to not lose your mind, because in times like this, it is very easy to. I know I said this earlier that I think right now we are living in strangest time any one of us could have ever imagined. And it's really easy to lose hope or lose sight of looking forward to things to come. And I think us as a city, we have lots to look forward to. We have strategic planning coming. That's a time where, you know, the five of us are going to sit around and talk about the direction of the city, what we want to work on, and set our goals. Now would be a wonderful time to chime in, either via social media or email allcouncil@elsegundo.org to let us know the direction you would like your council to go in regards to strategic planning. Budget money is going to be tight, so some major projects may be on hold. But if there's a direction that you feel very passionately about, please communicate it to us. Again, stay safe out there, stay sane. Please wear your masks, respect each other, and respect each other's decisions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Nickel. All right, moving on to Councilmember Perstuck.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out and getting involved. It's important. We are a community of many voices, and it's important that we listen to everybody. And I want, you know, it's important to be kind to everybody and not judge, and just, we are all in the same storm, but we're not in the same boat. On a lighter note, and for positivity, this afternoon I was out watering my lawn and I saw a couple in their 50s walking together, and they both had pickers, you know, that pick up trash with the trash bag. And as they walked along, they were picking up trash, and I thanked them for that. And I thought, you know what? So I went down to the 99-cent store and I bought myself a picker. So hopefully, as I'm going out walking my new puppy, I will be picking up trash. So if you see me, just wave. And I'm sure that 99-cent store will be able to get some more pickers in. I bought the last one. But please, you know, we are a community together, and it's important that we take care of that community. And one of the things I really am worried about is the mental health of our community and of our residents, and especially our students. So please, you know, the city is going to be posting more information about mental health awareness, as well as the lifeline if you do know somebody that's you know, not feeling great. And be aware and pay attention. It's important that we make it out through this storm together. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Perstuck. Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel.
Well, certainly I appreciate the edifying comments of my colleagues about that we have more in common than we have differences, which is refreshing to be reminded. I will bore you all to death with the technocratic report out of the Mayor Pro Tem. As you all know, we are as a city in sanitation districts. On the east side of town, our waste goes to the county. On the west side, we go to Hyperion. Tying into the police chief's comments, the sanitation district is finding samples in solid waste at far higher samples of COVID and far higher numbers than are anticipated. So the idea of asymptomatic carrying, as sort of nebulous as it seems, is real, just because they can measure it in the waste going downstream. That there's far more in that product than associates with the infection numbers. So there's a great deal of people who seem to be carrying this virus who do not seem to know it. On a non-biological end, the way Hyperion treats things is, and we will be talking about this, I know, down the road as a council, but we need to prepare the citizens that waste treatment to comply with state law is getting significantly more expensive. And while that, on the east side of town, the county charges its consumers directly. On the west side, we on the city are the middlemen for water and for waste treatment costs. So look for significant increases in those charges. And those are just things that we are hearing in those sanitation meetings. I know, Mr. Mayor, we hear at the SBCOG meetings for the Coalition of Governments, things moving ahead on the transportation side. We are happily seeing our Park Place extension moving ahead smoothly, which is a tremendous win for us that's been carried through by our acting Public Works Director, our previous current Public Works Director, and is certainly a credit to the City Manager, Mr. Mitnick, in that regard. And then lastly, at the League of Cities last week, the budget was approved for this year. The League of Cities on our end represents all 88 cities in LA County. I'm happy to report that the budget has been reduced because we can't have any League of Cities meetings. I don't know if there will be a dues reduction, but in theory, we'll be able to carry over some of our dues to next year, which is less out of pocket for the city and puts money right back into our residents. So with that, that is all of the pro tem report. Hopefully we can do this in the meeting chamber soon. I can get away from all of these people in my house.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Mayor Pro Tem. Quick on the South Bay City Council of Government. I'm on the first chair, I guess, of the steering committee and the board, and we had a meeting recently that addressed police reform. And it was very interesting. We had Mayor Butts, who spent 30 years in law enforcement in the city of Santa Monica, the city of Inglewood, LAX, and is now the mayor of Inglewood. Actually, I don't think he ever served as police in Inglewood, but he's the mayor of Inglewood. Also, Errol Southers, who's an expert in that field from USC Price Policy, who's also a former police officer. Both Jim Butts and Errol are Black gentlemen. We also had a mental health professional from the LA County. It was very enlightening to get perspective about the challenges, what works, what doesn't work with police reform, the opportunities, the weaknesses. I learned a tremendous amount, and then touched base with Mark Hensley, our city attorney, and our own chief of police, and Scott Mitnick, to bounce those ideas off them. And I'm just thankful that we are hearing so much from our constituents. I mean, the democratic process is truly alive and well. And I would encourage everybody, especially the youth that have been so actively involved, to register to vote, get involved, and show up to vote at the ballot box. And that's all I have this evening. I'm going to turn it over to the city attorney.
Nothing this evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. All right, then we go on to Scott Mitnick, city manager.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, a few things. Get my notes here. Where do we go? On the diversity issue, one thing I forgot to mention, it's in the staff report, something that'll be done right away. Tomorrow, the council will be holding its update check-in on the strategic plan. It's a 3-year document, and we're getting ready for the second year of that document. It was suggested earlier by council to roll in the diversity issue into the strategic plan into one of your top 5 goals. So tomorrow, we're going to recommend that you do that. So that's one. It's a small thing. It's a gesture, but it does show to the community that this council, if it goes along with that, is taking the diversity issue quite seriously by rolling that into one of the top goals. So that's something that will happen right away if the council goes along with that. I do also want to remind folks, those who want to learn more about the police department right now, the police chief made reference to their website. It's at www.elsegundopd.org. So just type in El Segundo Police Department, you'll find their website, and then click on the transparency button. A lot of good information about use of force policies and other policies and practices of the police department. Okay, so I covered that. I would like to remind the council and share with the community that we have a new public works director. Our previous one, Ken Berkman, took the public works director job with the city of Burbank. Reference was made to Mark Watkins, who has been filling in the interim public works director job on an acting basis for a few months. I'm proud to share that Elias Sassoon, he's the public works director with the city of Rancho Palos Verdes, and he has many years of experience, including working with the city of Dallas for 20 plus years, and as a public works director with Cedar Hill in Texas, a suburb south of Dallas. Lots of experience, proven track record, has the exact experience that we need here to move forward on several projects, really good with employee development. He will start on August 17th. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Sassoon, and when the meeting on the 18th, he will be there to be introduced. Okay, let's take a look at what's coming up. As mentioned, the council, you'll have a strategic plan study session tomorrow, 22nd, and that starts at 12 noon. And again, as a reminder, you will be taking a look. We're going to provide an update on how this year went or how it's going. Look at our finances, talk about some of the land use issues, talk about some of the organization issues. Then we'll get into your current strategic plan. You are not creating new goals and you're not creating new metrics and KPIs and that type of thing, but you'll look at your 5 broad goals, your 9 top priorities for the organization, see if they still make sense, see if they need to be massaged, revised a little bit. We'll spend some time with that, and then we'll make the adjustments to the second year of the 3-year strategic plan. We need that as your staff because we're working on the budget for next year, which starts on October 1st. So if you have any changes that we need to adjust the budget for, we'll be able to do that. It's also a good check-in. And as a reminder to the council and members of the public, we come to you every quarter, 4 times a year, with an update on the progress of your strategic plan. So there's incredible amount of transparency. And I know it's a riveting topic and you love to get all that detail, but we're staying on top of that. So that's tomorrow, 12 p.m. The next council meeting after that will be on August 5th, and we'll have the study session on the proposed budget for next fiscal year. And our fiscal year runs from October 1 normally to September 30th, but we're going to recommend that you go on a traditional calendar that will run from July 1 through June 30th. So this next year will go from October 1 to June 30th. Then after that, we'll be on a more traditional schedule. That's it with city manager comments. Thank you very much. I appreciate your indulgence.
Thank you, Mr. Mitnick. All right, we have a memorial to read. El Segundo is saddened to learn of the death of Bill Field. Bill Field is the co-founder and proprietor of Old Town Music Hall in El Segundo, and he died on Sunday, June 28, 2020 of natural causes in his LA home at the age of 80. An accomplished musician, Field is well known for launching Old Town Music Hall as a music and movie venue in 1968. He launched the theater together with fellow musician Bill Kaufman. Both partners played the mighty Wurlitzer Theater pipe organ, an enormous wind-powered instrument built in 1925 to provide musical accompaniment for silent movies. Operating as a nonprofit, Old Town Music Hall presents early 20th century music and films. At each show, audiences experience a pipe organ medley followed by a sing-along, short comedy, and a feature film. Sundays usually feature live concerts of popular music, jazz, and ragtime. Old Town Music Hall is known all over the world. It is housed in a 1921 silent movie theater. In 1968, Field and Kaufman rented the theater, renovated it to emulate the spectacle of grand movie palaces, and installed the pipe organ, which they purchased from its original home in the Fox West Coast Movie Theater in Long Beach. It took the duo a year to install it. Over the years, Old Town Music Hall has become a cultural landmark and beloved Los Angeles institution. Before his passing, Field ensured that Old Town Music Hall would remain intact and thriving in the hands of younger generations that he mentored. William Charles Field was born in LA on October 4th, 1939, one of 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls. His father, William Thomas Field, chief electrician for the LA Unified School District. His mother, Gertrude Sarah Hopkins, the secretary for LAUSD. Field attended Catholic schools through high school. As a preteen, Bill got his start at the LA Theater, Movie Palace in downtown LA, playing the organ for audiences before the shows started. Throughout his career, he played at many churches and venues throughout Southern California, including the Paramount Iceland ice skating rink in Paramount. He began to play the organ for churches and other venues in the LA area. Field and Kaufman decided to establish Old Town Music Hall as a venue for audiences to enjoy pipe organ music and as a theater to recreate the early American tradition of spending an afternoon or evening at the movies in the 1920s or 30s. Field was a well-known figure in theater organ societies around the world. He is survived by his 2 sisters, his innumerable colleagues and friends, and his longtime partner, Danny Tokusato. In addition to Bill's dedication to preserving and presenting classic movies and music, Bill mentored many young artists and volunteers at Old Town Music Hall. He will be remembered for his humor and generosity. Family and friends of Bill are invited to share their favorite photos, video memories, and heartfelt messages on his tribute page on the Green Hills Mortuary website. Donation in Bill's memory may be made to the nonprofit Old Town Music Hall through his website, www.oldtownmusichall.org. Sadly, we have another memorial. This is Stanley Zimmerman's memorial. He was born June 18th, 1932. Passed away on Friday, July 10th, 2020, less than a month after celebrating his 88th birthday. Stanley was a philanthropist, business innovator, and strong supporter of government action to protect the rights of the individual. He was born in Terre Haute, Indiana, and grew up in Chicago, Illinois. In 1944, his parents, Ben and Edith Zimmerman, moved the family to Los Angeles. Stan married the love of his life, Myrna Vickman, on December 20th, 1959, and together they raised 4 children, Jay, David, Thomas, and Rebecca. He started his business, education, in elementary school, helping his father with the beer distributing business, which Ben had founded when they lived in the Midwest. Stan would recount stories of the physical labor involved cleaning up broken bottles and filling trucks. As is now well known, Stan always had a love affair with cars, which may have started with driving trucks in the beer yard, or maybe with the jalopy he bought and fixed up in his high school years. Decades later, this love culminated in his gathering a collection of rare, beautiful, and unique cars, which became the Automobile Driving Museum of El Segundo, which he founded and for which he was the principal sponsor. In his relatively quieter later years, Stan devoted his energy to growing the Automobile Driving Museum. His philosophy is encapsulated in the mission that he created for the museum, namely that it can be an everyman's museum, where the public could go up close to the cars so that it could experience them as he did. Stan is survived by his loving wife, Myrna, his son, Jay, his son, David, his wife, Lisa, his son, Thomas, and his wife, Kat, and his daughter, Rebecca, as well as 6 grandchildren. In lieu of flowers, the family requests donations be made to Concerned Foundation for Cancer Research. Thank you very much. We are adjourning open session. We are going back to closed session. And if it's okay with council, I would suggest 8:20 to go back to closed, which will allow us time to grab a quick bite. Everyone's okay with that? Okay, great. And I'll send the Zoom link for that next one, 8:20.
Mayor, you will email me.
When we adjourn close, yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay.